And then Amanda, in the upper left-hand corner of that slide there, you see that little speaker thing? Why don't you hit that? We get our playing music. And then when I start talking again, you'll turn the playing music off. Hit it again. It's not playing. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We've been catching a bit of the pre-show. Hey, a couple of these welcome icebreakers here in the chat. Get in the chat. A couple of interesting things here. Number 2, if you have a professional development book or a podcast you'd recommend, drop that into the chat. Or if you're a racehorse in the Kentucky Derby, what's your name? Maybe contribute that to the chat. That was good. Number 4. That's a clever one. Whoever came up with that. Out of order, you know. I think a lot of potential with the horse name here. Gallop and Grill. Although I initially saw that as Gallop and Grill. I don't know why. That's more my eyes than anything else. I love it, Carol. Make it work. Very good. Very good. We'll give people another 30 seconds to come on in or tell us what Kentucky Derby horse name that they think they deserve. All righty. Okay, it's coming down now. All right, Amanda, let's move to the next slide, please. We'll shut the music off. And hey, hello, everybody. We again have a great program for you tonight. Many thanks to the PMI CIC volunteer team for organizing and orchestrating this particular event. Tonight, we're bringing you a dynamic duo. Insights into how change management and project management amplify each other. But first, here's our agenda. Amanda, that would be the cue. There you go. Okay. We have the kind of somewhat typical agenda going on here. Okay. That we're going to go. We'll get right on to it. Before we get started, there is one thing I want you all to be able to do. This is the audience participation enabler. Let's go to the next slide. The QR code. Okay, everybody, get your phone out, please. See, and thanks for putting videos on. Go ahead and take a camera shot of this and head to this QR code location. This is Slido, and Slido is where you will be able to ask your questions and maybe even vote questions up over the course of the evening, okay? We'll be using this to be able to manage the questions and answers from our guest speaker this evening. All righty, so that's good. Okay, now for the announcements here that we have, 3 quick ones here. Do you want to save money? I think I got, do you want to save money? There are discounts on certification prep classes here, and the partnering with PM Training really makes this a great financial deal and a great professional deal for you. There are details on how to do this on the chapter website. In the middle box there, we are looking for mentors for the mentoring program launch that's coming up here. If you feel that you can give back to the profession in the form of mentorship, hey, this is a place for you to sign in. At the bottom there, you see that little URL, again, at the website for pmicic.org, mentoring-sign-up. That's what you want to type into the browser to be able to sign up to be a mentor. That'll be great. Okay. Are you into graphic design? We are looking for somebody that's into graphic design. It could be professionally. It could be you just have like aptitude and interest on this. If you're passionate about design and want to make an impact, there's a need for a graphic designer volunteer to help us out. If you are this person, please email president@pmicic.org for more information about what this entails. Graphic designers wanted there, okay? All righty, and let's go to the next slide here. This is a classic teaser. Something exciting is coming. It's going to come soon. Apparently, it's going to come in email or social media or wherever it is that you get information. There will be breaking news about a chapter event. I sense. I frankly don't know anything else about it. So watch out for something exciting. Something is coming. Keep your eyes open for it. This next slide, though, I do have specifics on, and that is, maybe you want to take a bit of a break and take some time out at the zoo. You got fresh air, you got the smell of natural animals, and you got a 35% discount because you're a member of PMI. So 35% discount to the Indianapolis Zoo for being a member of PMI, and tickets are valid any day. The tickets are valid even on special zoo event days, like the Jazz Fest or Christmas or things like that. Okay, so just want you to be aware of other PMI benefits. And now I would like to introduce to you a member of the board to bring to you chapter business and PMI updates. Adrienne Roman, are you out there? Adrienne Roman.
There we go.
Okay.
Hi, everyone.
All yours. Amanda will move the slides for you, Adrienne.
Perfect. So first and foremost, we want to welcome all of our new members that joined recently. So many that I'm not going to go through and name, but we want to know that we are so excited that you are now part of our chapter. Hopefully you're on the call and enjoying your first event. But again, please, feel free to reach out if you have any questions, need anything from us. We're very excited to have you on board. And then next, oh goodness, there's a part 2. So let's get a second to watch this as well. But very excited. And also, if you're looking to do volunteering, please visit our website, sign up. We're always looking to get more people involved. Also, huge shout out to people who are newly certified. This is no easy feat. We're very excited to show how many of our members have now accomplished a new certification, probably multiples at this point, as you can see on some people's names, which is really exciting. So very, happy to share this news. Congratulations to all of those who just got their new certifications. And then last, just a few updates from PMI Global. There are some more sustainability resources that are going to be announced and that are coming out, including certifications for sustainability. So if that's something that is interesting to you, please go visit the PMI site, read their press release to get some more information. It's really a great thing to see that the certifications are even getting broader and more covering more topics. So that's really fun to check out, and always keep your eyes on the PMI website anyways for new updates. There is the PMBOK Guide 8th edition public review is open now. And that's open till early June. So you have an option to look through the materials, and you can read and leave comments, which will be incorporated and taken in, because as we know, we're the professionals in this field. We are the ones who are helping guiding where it goes. And so your feedback and comments and insight is really important. And this is your opportunity to voice that. And then lastly, there is a PMI study hall for CAPM. So if that is something that you've been interested in or wanting to try, there is a digital learning tool that will help you build some more confidence by giving you some practice and help boost your success. So the study hall just makes it a little more fun, makes it a little more engaging, and gives you an opportunity to learn in different ways. So even if you're not interested, make sure to share this with others. So, and once again, just keep your eye on the website. There's so much cool things coming your way. And that's a great place to find the newest news.
Thanks, Adrienne. Thank you very much, man, for the toss back. Very appreciative of that. Okay, and I think we'll see you a little bit later on at the end with some upcoming attractions and events that are coming up. So we'll see more of Adrienne near the end of the show. In the meantime now, though, let's see. Can we bring our featured presentation screen back up? And okay, let's hang it right here. Amanda, good. Stick right here. Hey, guys, tonight's presenter has asked that all attendees turn your cameras on, please, and be prepared to participate in breakout room sessions. Look forward to that here in the coming hour. Please honor his request there. An educator, executive, team coach, consultant, and expert in team dynamics, Brett Hodge is an entrepreneur with extensive experience with team leadership and organizational effectiveness. He is a certified change management practitioner who has owned his expertise from industries such as manufacturing, pharmaceutical, healthcare, to philanthropic and not-for-profit board and staff development. He was a lead designer of the Deliberate Leader Development Program at IU Health, is an adjunct faculty educator for IU O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs and the Kelley School of Business. Brett holds an MSW from Indiana University, is a professional certified coach through the ICF, a certified crucial learning facilitator, a 7 Habits and Speed of Trust facilitator, and a ProSci certified change management practitioner. He is now here to share with us the dynamic duo, change management and project management. So please join me in welcoming Brett Hodge to a computer monitor near you. Brett, welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Rich, and welcome everybody to the program tonight. When I started talking to your committee, your planning committee about this workshop, and we talked about the dynamic duo a little bit. And it's kind of interesting. I grew up in the 60s, which the original Batman and Robin was in the 1960s into the early 70s. If anybody out there is old enough to remember the original one. Quite a quirky little show, but to make the kind of the metaphor for what we're going to talk about tonight is really two things. One thing is that there's 2 processes that I have found most effectively work together when it comes to projects. I'm going to give you a quick story here. 1990, see, what was it? About 2015, sorry, the next decade. 2015, I was working at IU Health. One of the things that we realized is we were doing a lot of lean projects, just tons of them all over the place. And we had a company come in called Simpler, which does lean projects and things like that, and help with that. One of the things we really realized that we were doing a lot of projects for very little return compared to what the projects had started out with the hope to do. So what they call them green dollars, basically. And they said, for a lot of your projects, for what you're putting into and a lot of your expenditure, you're really not getting back the green dollars that you should expect from a change like that. And so the thing that we really started to focus on was what was getting in the way of success. It was not the projects themselves, but what we found was we had done a really kind of poor job at the people side of change. If you think about projects, every project, and I tried to find some research that said this wasn't true, but that almost every project is going to end up with some kind of change that someone has to make, right? Either behaviorally, in terms of their role, in terms of expectations, but typically almost every project is going to end up with some kind of change that has to happen. So one of the things that we realized was that project management and change management each contribute a really critical ingredient to the success of change. They vary a little bit in terms of focus and approach, but each discipline is essential in terms of moving your projects and people from the current state through the transition state into the desired future state. And understanding how each of those disciplines works alongside the other is a step in achieving, really the foundation necessary for effective projects. And we'll look at some of the research behind that in a minute. Go ahead and switch slides for me, Amanda. Thanks. So what we're going to do here is I want you to think for a moment about what are the most common challenges that you have faced in your life as a project manager or as a project team member. I don't know that everyone in the room, so to speak, in the virtual room is a manager, but certainly most of us have either been a manager or been on a team, a project team. So I want you to think about that for a minute. I'm going to put you into some small groups for about 5 minutes. And Amanda's going to help me with that. And based on the numbers, you should have 4 or 5 people in each group. While you're in that breakout room, what I'd like you just to talk about is what are some of the most common challenges that you face in trying to make sure that your projects are successful. That once you get into a project, it's defined, what are some of the most common challenges that you have along the way to completion and success? So put you in a group. I want you to talk about some of those challenges with the people in your breakout room. We'll give you about 5 minutes. And then what I would like is to come back and hear some of the feedback from the group. Okay. So you'll be asked to join a room, and just, I think you got to put join or click join or something like that when it pops up on your screen. So what are the most common challenges that you have faced in your life as a project manager? Amanda, are you still on here?
Hey, Brett, are you there? Brett, come back. I haven't seen Brett appear yet. Okay, we have sent a search party out for our featured presenter.
Have we closed down the rooms yet? You may be in one of the rooms.
I closed them out because I was getting kicked out of
Thank
the
you.
whole meeting.
Maybe he listened into our breakout rooms and the problems were so daunting that scared him. No, probably not. Brett Hodge.
I wonder
Hodge.
if he got.
I don't see him anywhere, but I'm not saying the full list also. Oh, there we go. Now I figured out how to see the full list. Let's see. Carol, when we do get him back here, we'll want to bring the, excuse me, Amanda, when we bring him back, we'll want to bring up the, thank you. Yeah, exactly. Bring that presentation back up again. Uh-oh. Amanda left the meeting. So we're having some technical difficulties, folks, that we are working through on the presenter side. I don't want to join the breakout group. I'm canceling that. Cancel your breakout invitation. While we reconnect with our presenter. Double checking other forms of communication. Hey, Adrian, are you around?
I'm on here. Yep.
Adrian, why don't we go to the other announcements that you were going to make? I can help. Keep that there. There we go. And I'll share more coming attractions. There we go. Adrian, it's coming up with, okay, and ignore this and that. Okay, there we go.
Right. Well, thank you. Yeah, this will be a great time to share this. So we do have a new event on the calendar that's really exciting, and it's something we haven't done before, and it's free. So if you're interested in learning more about Riverside Park, we have one of our wonderful directors of the chapter was working on this project and brought it to light that this would be something that she could open up to us and show us some behind the scenes insights into what it was like helping to manage this high impact public project. You'll learn about navigating all the stakeholders. You'll learn about how the signage tells the story, and give you an opportunity to walk and talk with fellow chapter members, and hopefully on a very beautiful morning and get some fresh air. So for more information, or if you want to register, the link's on the slide. It's May 31st, and it's the walk and talk event at Riverside Park.
Very good. Thanks, Adrian. Hey, Brett, did we get you back? I thought I saw him come up here. I know I did.
Rich, it looks like you might only be a viewer right now. I don't know if you need to promote him to a contributor. There you go. Somebody did.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate the tip there. And there's Brett. And Amanda, let's go ahead and bring the slide deck back up again. Hi, Brett.
Hi,
We
sorry about that.
we went to commercial with the
got
technical
lost in
difficulties.
Google land somewhere.
Yeah. No, we're
couldn't get back.
We,
All right, so everybody had a chance to talk about that. I can't see everybody, so there's no way for me to know who's raising their hand or not. But what I'd like to do is have you share. Maybe you can do it through the chat, or if you is there a way? There's like one window that says 18 others, so I don't.
Daryl
has
something
what I'd like to
from
just hear is what some of the responses were in terms of some of the common challenges.
I'll
Okay.
speak up. My name is Carol, and I was in a great group with Rebecca and Rich, and something that came up was the the scope creep, which all of us experienced at some point in our careers. It happens, but when that happens, it can get really dicey, for sure.
Okay, scope creep.
Lack of committed resources to the project, having too many other responsibilities was one we discussed.
Right on. Okay. Lack of not having the resources necessary. If you can't, you can also, they can write in the chat too, right? As far as if you have any responses there. Rich, if you can see that, if you see anything, read it off, that would be great.
will do. Nothing there yet.
Patrick, I can see your face. That's unfortunate for you because you're going to be called on.
Yeah, it took. I had some
Yes.
technical difficulties. So I don't know if it was on y'all's end, but I couldn't view or use a sound until just now. So thanks for whoever helped that. So I was not in a break. I couldn't get in the breakout room, but I'd say scope creep definitely, but also like project leadership. Project leadership is a huge challenge for projects.
And we're going to talk about that. Thank you, Patrick. Someone else. Don't be shy. Come on. Like I said, either speak up or put your thought in the chat.
Brett, another one that we talked about was the fact that the project team may be ready for whatever it is you're implementing or putting in place, but if you don't do a good job of preparing those outside the project, of understanding how it's going to impact them, it can doom the success of your activities.
Way to go, Jeremy. Thank you. That was the perfect intro into what we're going to talk about. That's exactly what we're talking. So rather than spend too much time trying to figure out how to get everybody's response, if you put it in the chat or questions in the chat as we go, Rich will track that for me and stop and please interrupt anytime when something comes up that you want to say something about, you want to know something about. But when we look at, and I think you hit on a lot of, go ahead and hit the button once, Amanda. These are going to come up. The first one is project not defined or defined well enough, right? So certainly when we don't have a good definition, we don't start. I think one of the, we're going to get into a model here in a minute. My background primarily comes from the change side, right? I'm a social worker. I started out in mental health. And so a lot of my work through the years, especially my early years, was really in helping individuals and families and things like that create changes. And then I moved into employee assistance and started working with business and industry, and then started my business 30 years ago. And really a lot of it is about what is the vision. A lot of people, even if it's on individual, how do you see yourself a year from now? How do you see yourself 5 years now? From a project, how do we see the end of this? What should be the result of that, right? So if it's not well defined in the beginning, what does that what's the Cheshire Cat and Alice in Wonderland? If you don't know which way to go, either way is okay to go, right? So we can get lost on terms of right off the bat if we don't have a clear direction. The other thing, a lot of times what I'll do is about alignment. Having that project well defined and defined enough helps align your members, as well as both in terms of the work that they do as well as what they're communicating outside of the group. I do this activity, like if we were in the room, I was going to do an activity where I'd have but you can imagine if everybody were to stand up and I were to tell you to close your eyes and turn around 3 times, keep your eyes closed the whole time, and now take your right finger with your eyes closed and point northwest. Any guesses what I would see? Probably
30 people pointing in 30 different directions.
30 people pointing in 30 different directions. Exactly right.
Just a guess.
Now, the interesting thing is, if I asked them how many of you were really trying to point in the direction that I asked you to, I get 100% hands up. So it's not always about our intentions of what we're trying to do. A lot of times it's just lack of alignment. We haven't done a good job really defining what we're trying to do and what the end in mind will look like, so that we can all be working towards that. Amanda, go ahead, please. Someone brought up maybe it was Jeremy, and somebody brought up lack of leadership. It's a killer. Even though I come in from the change side primarily, I have done some stints with companies where I wasn't a project manager, but I was a project team member. And I can tell you the number of times that things got killed because we do all this work just to find out that it wasn't supported, or it kind of died off and no one ever did anything to re-energize it, or we weren't getting roadblocks taken away from us. And so not having that leadership, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about. One of the keys in change management, which aligns with some of the initial stages of project development, is making sure you have your key leaders in place and that they are fully behind what we call in change management, we would call sponsors. And typically we say you need to have an executive leader sponsoring every project, even the small projects. It doesn't mean they have to put a lot of time into it necessarily, but it does mean they know what it is, they know what's going on, they know the intentions, they've spoken the approval for it, and therefore they're also backing it in terms of when they're talking to their colleagues and things, and they're fully supporting in terms of resources and everything else. So certainly lack of leadership can be a killer for sure.
Ellen Collins contributed lack of project sponsorship or commitment in the chat, Brett. So right on point.
Okay, lack of commitment and lack of sponsorship. Is that what you said?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's what we're talking about there is lack of leadership, right? Some of that's having that true sponsor. I don't know how many of you are familiar with ProSci change management. It's impossible for me to see if you've had experience with that, but that's one of the things that we brought in. I've seen a lot of thumbs go up, so a lot of this will be familiar to you all. One of the things that we integrated at IU Health was the ProSci process. After we realized we were losing so much money in what we call green dollars, because we're thinking about a lot of projects where you have different people on those projects. You're paying for each of those people's time to be in there. You're paying for their time that they're not producing because they're in the project for, we used to do 2 week. Some of these were 2 week, really high intensity, rapid improvement events. And we'd go in there and you'd be like, wow, it was going hard for 8-10 hours a day. Everybody's excited. It's a cross-functional group in this project. And I remember one that I was on, we're trying to get the bed, how long it took for a room to turn over once a patient had left, right? And so an empty bed is basically no money coming into the hospital and no one getting better, and that could use the room. And so it was taking 2 to 3 hours when a patient left to get it turned over for the next hour. We were able in that project to get that down to 15 minutes. Sounds great, right? Until you take it to environmental services and they're like, no freaking way. Did you know that we have to go down 2 floors to, that's where our supplies are? Because there's no room up on this floor for supplies. Did you know this or that? And so the bottom line is we were successful, but what we were realizing is we weren't engaging the people who were going to have to carry out what we were planning in the projects. And so that's where we really started sinking money into the change management piece, and which is what the area that I come out of. Having been a social worker, worked in mental health, a lot of mine was around change models. How do we help individuals? How do we help groups shift in terms of their current state to a future state. So lack of leadership, number 3, which includes sponsorship, by the way, lack of accountability. Again, you know, if you look at accountability comes from buy-in, and buy-in comes from being able to have good disagreements in your project teams, and good disagreements in your project teams comes from having really high trust. And so if we start by really building taking some time to build trust within the core group, you're going to have more opportunity that people are going to speak up when they don't agree with something, which is going to, or when they want to share a difference in some cases. And because we have trust, we listen to it with open ears. And then because of that, and we've been allowed to do that, when we get to the ability of when we get to the accountability piece, it will be there. If you think about accountability, it's really two words, right? Accountability. If you turn that around, ability to account. So a lot of times when we think about, when people really bought into something, you don't have to hold people accountable, because the bottom line is they can't wait to tell you what they're working on, what their challenges are, and that sort of thing. So not having that in a work team means that people aren't speaking up, and that means that also people either aren't aligned, or they're not clear on expectations, or their lack of desire. We'll talk about that in a minute here too. Go ahead with 4. Inefficient communication. You know, that could be inefficient communication from leadership to the team. That could be inefficient communication within the team. You know, if you're a team that's geographically split apart, when you're not working on project stuff, that can become an issue for communication and knowing what the communication lines are. There's also the even bigger is the communication that goes from the project team to those who are ultimately going to be the ones who are going to have to carry out the results of that project team. When do we start engaging them in terms of communication, right? Number 5, no plan or clear time scale, or poor planning and timing. You know, you guys, if you've ever been in a project where it's just poorly run, poorly managed, there is no clear structured process for it. It can easily start to, people come in excited, and pretty soon they start dropping off because they don't feel the organization, they don't feel the forward movement. So really having that plan and a clear time scale, so that it allows people to understand how long is this going to last, so they know what they're working towards in terms of expectations for their own pieces of the work. Poor planning, again, just not putting all the pieces of the plan together and really well thought out. And then timelining, right? So a project that doesn't seem to have an end to it, right? And I'm sure some of you have been on that, where, okay, at what point do we really need to put something in place? You know, one thing about timelines is it tends to drive people's behavior towards productivity when they know something is coming up. 6, lack of user testing or failure to address feedback. So we do all the project in lieu of the people that are going to have to do whatever it is that we are planning for them to do. And let's say we're building a new machine or a new part to a machine, and that's our project. Guess what? Someone still is going to have to work on that machine differently. So it's still going to change it, create a behavior change that's going to be needed on somebody's path. So the idea there is that we don't do the testing. We go based on past experience. We go based on ego. I know this is going to work because I thought of it, or we've tried it before, but we haven't tried it with this group because every group is different, right? So lack of user testing, a failure to address the feedback. So testing would mean we don't really try out the things that we're going to be asking people to do based on what the project focus is, and we're not listening to what they're saying. We're not having some regular input that says, okay, here's the loop that tells us how this is being adopted or how this is being thought of from the outside. 7, and then just solving the wrong problem, getting way into it and wondering what the heck, why are we solving this problem? This isn't even the real problem. You get farther into it and realize what you're trying to solve is really just a symptom of some other problem or something like that, and so the problem statement isn't well thought out. Any other thoughts on that? I think this covers most of the stuff that you're going to talk about. Go ahead on the next slide. I want to share.
Phyllis Simpson contributed budget cuts impacting projects. Budget cuts.
Yes, budget cuts and what?
That are impacting the projects.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, what causes those? I mean, I don't have the person here to be able to tell me that, but what causes budget cuts? Anybody?
Nowadays.
Anything and everything.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Adrian. Go ahead.
I was just going to say anything and everything, it seems like.
Okay, anything. But it almost sounds like sometimes if budget cuts are coming in, the project itself wasn't really set well in the first place. If it's going to affect this project, then you got to wonder, okay, at the time that the budgets were created, where was this project at that point, right? Because if you run out of resources, it's very difficult to complete something. So to me, that comes part of the initiation phase. Do we have the resources? What's going to be happening down the in the organization down the road here in the next 6 months, and how might that affect our project, right? And really thinking out that whole initiation piece of it. Can be there.
Other causes coming in, Brett: change in priorities, a change in regulations, an emergency security event came about, which probably then led to a change in priority.
Yeah. So lots of things can create that, right? And can change both the project. And so how we got people engaged, and when we change, how do we communicate that change and why the change is there? In this slide, we're looking basically at the, I gotta go back here on my thing. I started to think about what's the difference between Batman and Robin. Does anybody remember Batman and Robin?
The original?
Carol, what do you remember? What was the difference between Batman and Robin? Do you remember anything about them? Their personalities?
Size.
What's that?
Size.
Okay,
One being
Batman
bigger
was
than
a
the
grown
other.
man, and Robin, even though he was a grown man too,
Yeah,
he
sure.
was a boy, boy wonder, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of the side guy.
Yep, kind of the side guy. So if we think about it, Batman was always more concerned about results and stopping villains. That was what he was all about. He really kind of embodied stoicism and a calculated, methodical approach. He was very, if you think about him, he was like, he's all about very analytical, right? That sort of thing. We think about Robin. What did Robin say all the time? Holy this, holy that, holy adjective. I started looking up what some of them were. He brought the human element to their encounters. Robin's approach was often more impulsive, right? And reliant on emotional responses. Robin was much more emotional. Things like, holy, get out on a limb, Batman, or holy, here we go again, Batman, or holy God, golly gee whiz, Batman. So he always it's interesting that the writers kept putting that holy word in front of everything that Robin said. But the whole thing was there, he was emotional, right? So you got this stoic Batman, and then you've got this other guy who's kind of a little bit more focused on things like the emotional side of work. And so when we start to look at Batman and Robin, and we start to look at, okay, just as a metaphor, if we're looking at what is it that change management is trying to create, and what is project management is trying to do. So in this slide, I just kind of put side to side, what the basic key success measures are for each. So if we look at project management, we're measuring focuses on the technical side of change elements, primarily things like being on time, on budget, meeting technical requirements, achieves. This is in both achievement of results and outcomes, right? That's ultimately what we're doing. But guess what? That's also the ultimate end in mind for change management too. Now, the little bit difference in these is that when you look at measurements around change, you look at the people side, and they include things like speed of adoption. So, okay, we've created this new thing. How long does it take people to learn it? How long does it take people to be able to actually utilize it? So we look at ultimate utilization. How many people is it impacting, right? And then we look at proficiency of those impacted people. Not only are they able to take on the new behaviors that are being asked by our project, but are they able to do it in a proficient way? And how long does that take? And then ultimately achievement of results and outcomes. So if you look at the two, one's really about the technical aspects, and the other is really about, does this really make it live in the world, right? And these are the aspects that we're looking at to see if it's live when it comes from our project group out to the community that we're involved with, the organization that we're involved with. Are these happening? Are people adopting it? Are they utilizing it? Right? I've done things before that have come out. I say that was good. I'll do it for a day and then go back to what I was doing before. So it's also, does it stick, and how long does it stick, and what do we need to do to make it stick? So anyway, this is just showing side by side the success measurements of both change management and project management. Go ahead to the next slide, please. All right. So those of you, I saw the thumbs up. How many are familiar with ADKAR? Let me see all the thumbs go flying up through the thing here. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
I voted twice.
and a whole bunch. Okay. That's good. Because I'll tell you, change has been something that I've dedicated my life to. Like I said, I started out really as a clinical therapist in the mental health world. And there I'm dealing with both people who wanted to change and also people who were told they need to change, right? And so there's a real difference between people who are there, who are coming because they're asking for change, and those who are there because the judge told them they had to be there, right? Why are you here for therapy? Because the judge told me I had to be there. Well, I'd be like, well, he didn't tell me I had to be here. So either you want to do something with this time or not. And so when we look at what does it really take to change, right? And then we'll look at how we lay over the ADKAR model to the with project management. So when I started really, looking at change, it started my own life. How do I make changes in my own life? When I started working as a therapist, as a social worker, how can I help these individuals change? How can I help these groups, these families change? And this model just kept coming back. And then when we started doing change management, really getting into change management in my stint at IU Health, we adopted ProSci's ADKAR model as well. This was written on a napkin at a bar by the guy that started ProSci. He was just sitting there. He kept thinking, okay, what are the elements of change that really go into change? And that's where he came up with the acronym. So if we look at ADKAR, right, it's an acronym for awareness of the need for change, right? So what does awareness mean for the need for change? Well, if I'm somebody that's going to be impacted by your project, I need to know, first of all, why is the project being done? What are you trying to solve? What was wrong with what we were doing before, right? So there's a lot of things that I need to know. Awareness of I want to have some awareness of what it is we're changing and why, or why we're introducing a new process, a new machine, a new whatever it is that your project is focused on. Okay, that's great. I get why you're doing that. The D is for desire. Do I desire to participate in that change? I may or may not. I may look, thank you, but no thank you. I'm going to move on where you need to change. So I still might be stuck in that desire piece, which is, okay, I'm aware of why the change needs to happen, but I'm not sure that I necessarily want to engage myself in it full yet. So desire is to participate in the change. Once I have desire, then I have to know what to do, right? So that's where knowledge, the K for knowledge on how to change. If we think about that, if you could read a manual, watch a video about how to ride a bike. If you had never rode a bike before, how many think you could ride that bike just by reading a manual about how to ride that bike? I'm seeing the people I can see, I'm seeing going like, no. And then the reality is I've got a bunch of no's and laughing like, no way, like no freaking way. Now there's a great video on YouTube called The Backwards Bicycle, where the guy makes the handles go the opposite way and looks at how hard it is to learn to ride a bicycle in a different way. But anyway, so that knowledge by itself does not give us the ability. Ability comes from practice, right? Can you do it? Can you perform it? Can you perform it over and over again, right? So ability is part of not only do I learn how to do it, I actually practice and can show competency in doing it. And then once I have that competency in doing it, then I can go back to I need to be reinforced. How do I keep doing it again? One of the things that we recognize, if you think of a change, if you've heard of neuroplasticity before, it says we used to think that our brain after a certain age could not really take on a whole bunch more information. What they've learned is that our brains, as long as we have a healthy brain, throughout life can continue to grow new brain cells. And so the bottom line is when we train somebody or do something different for somebody, they can learn it. But the other thing they recognize is the other cells don't go away. So we have this loop, and the longer you've done something a certain way, the stronger that loop is in your brain. And so what's hard is to change that loop to do something else. And what happens also, stress or anything else happens over here, guess what happens? We go back to the old loop, right? So even though we can learn new things, we got to recognize that there is a real tendency for humans to drop back into what they previously already knew. So when we look at this car, this is an ADKAR. And when we talk about these elements of change, there really can be the elements of resistance. So if you were to think of a change in your own mind that you're currently going through, it could be at home, at work, whatever it be. And the scale, what I have people do is I have them basically shade in the bars. From 1 is strongly disagree to 5 is strongly agree. So if you put your changer up at the top, the change is going to be happening for you or people. Then you first of all say an awareness. And if someone has awareness, they're saying, I fully understand the reasons for this change. If that's true, they would put strongly agree. If I kind of do, but I don't, it might be in the middle, right? Now, desire, I have chosen to support and participate in this change, right? So that's what would be coming. This just kind of helps us think about what does that mean? Yeah, I get it. I know why we're doing it. And I do choose to put my energy and time into making that happen. The knowledge bar, I have the knowledge I need of how to change and be successful in this change. So I do have the knowledge, or I have the awareness and desire, but I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing differently. So that might be low there, might be in strongly disagree or disagree. And then ability, if someone has the ability, they're saying, I have the ability to implement the change and perform the required skills and behaviors. And then reinforcement is meaningful reinforcements are in place that will help me continue and sustain this change, right? And they talk about a barrier point. What it says is, so this is important when, say, a project team looking at utilization, adoption and utilization. You would say, okay, we're not getting where we want. Where's the resistance? So if I had every individual fill this out, I might say for Rich Gargis, his first barrier point is the first neutral or below thing. Let's say his was desire. I'd say, okay, he understands the change, but he's struggling with desire. He's not sure he really wants to do this or why he should want to do this, right? But then I go over to Jeremy, and Jeremy's like, no, I get it. I really want to do this. I'm glad I've been hoping we did something like this for a long time. I even have studied and understand what we're doing, but I haven't ever tried it before, so I have no idea. So that's where I'm stuck. So with Jeremy, I then may be working with him on ability when I'm working with Rich on desire on the same thing. And so, if you think of a change, you can kind of in your head here, just put yourself, would I give that, 1 to 5 on each of the 5 elements of ADKAR. Easy model to remember. And when I first learned this model, I thought this is exactly it. This is what I do with my clients. This is what I do. I'm also a professional coach. I do some coaching for physicians. And part of the thing when they come in, I say, are they aware? Do they know what it is that's going on that they're being asked to change? Do they have a desire to do it? Because they can just leave, go somewhere else if they don't want to deal with it. Yeah, no, they want, and then a lot of times where they're stuck is they don't have the knowledge. They don't have the interpersonal knowledge of different ways to interact to create better harmony within their work team or whatever it is that they might be struggling with. So it's a great model. It's one that when you're going through a project, you can get to people that are out there and see where they're at, and see where individuals are at. And you can tell, and what that does is tell you where the resistance is and allows you to be able to put together a plan of how to deal with resistance. If you got a bunch of people that are in the awareness stage, it probably says we need to do some more meetings and communications about the whole reason for the project in the first place to make sure that the end users are going to understand why we're doing, what created it, and all that sort of thing. And so depending on where individuals are at, you might have another group that's learning. They're already past that, and they're now in the process of learning how to do whatever it is that you've asked them to do. And so anyway, you can just look, and that's where your barrier will be, and that's where you can start to put energy towards making the change actually happen. If there's any questions, let me know, Rich, as we go. Go ahead. Thank you. So ADKAR, one of the most, for those of you that are familiar with this, you probably already know this, but for me, this also made a lot of sense to me because organization, like we think about what is an organization, because we always talk about changing organizations, right? You hear about that organization's changing. But what are we talking about? When we talk about organization, an organization is a group of people who come together for a common purpose. So organization is the people. And what's important to remember about any kind of project that you're working on that's going to create change for people in the organization, you got to recognize that ADKAR defines success for one person or a smaller group or organization-wide. And so what I just shared with you about where you might be on the ADKAR, if you look at this slide, of those 1,000 people, you could have people all over the place, even though they're all in the same historical place for what the change that's going on within the organization or the project's going to create for them, right? So whether you have one person, 5 people, 10 people, 1,000 people, it's the same. ADKAR works for all, but you cannot do ADKAR to 1,000 people at once. You have to have a sense of where individuals are at. And in larger groups, you'll find groupings of people that are stuck at different barriers. And that's where you start to put together support for those people to help them move through that barrier point, right, to get to the next one. And by the way, if desire is my thing, guess what? I'm not going to want to learn anything until I have that desire. But so that desire, that knowledge is going to be low too. But once I buy into the project and what we're trying to change here, then all of a sudden I do want to know. So all your knowledge numbers would go up, and that's why you go left to right on the barrier point. So if you have somebody take the ADKAR assessment, you just basically say, okay, start at the left. That one's above. That's above neutral. That's above. Okay, the third one's neutral or below. That's where you would start with that person, is one that's neutral or below. That's called a barrier point. So it really helps you when we're looking at overall utilization. It gives you an actual tool to be able to look at individuals and where they're at in the process of change. Go ahead. Thank you. So big picture, right? This is just, your basic model. We got the technical side of projects and we have the people side of projects. And we got the reason for change. And if we look at, even Lewin's freeze, unfreeze, freeze sort of model, basically it's the same kind of thing, right? Current state, transition state, future state. And so if we're looking at a sequential model, we're basically saying, people will go through a current state transition and then end up in the future state. If we look at a more iterative model, which we'll look at again here where ADKAR falls, you're going to have current state, you're going to have transition, future, transition, future, because each iteration is going to bring out some new information that's going to cause them to stay in transition until the final, whatever we agree on the final ending is. And so with the technical side, it's really design, develop, and deliver, plus engage, adopt, and use. That's where we're going to get success in our projects in the two. Okay, next, unless anybody has any questions, please raise your hand. I like this slide because it's how it feels like a lot of times when you're trying to get a project out there, right? Like you're going upstairs, everybody else is pushing you downstairs. I think when we start looking at this model, the change management process can be layered on top of a typical project. Like we were talking about, the current state has tremendous holding power, and the uncertainty of success and fear of unknown can block change and help things make us to fall back. Again, the neuroplasticity research shows that although we can change, and our brain can grow, we still have a tendency to want to stick with what is known, even if it's not working. It's familiar. It's the unknown that tends to cause people a lot of anxiety. And so when you think about the unknown, how many unknowns are going to come out of our project? The idea is, could we reduce those number of unknowns so that by the time we get to the end of the project, those unknowns aren't sitting there then, but they're actually dealt with during the life cycle of the project, right? So that ultimately it's not there. And get that person turned around and working with the rest of the group. Resistance is not bad. If I were to ask, I can't see you all, but those that I can see, if do you have resistance when someone says we're going to change something in general at work or wherever? How many would have? Again, it doesn't mean I'm not going to do it, but just have an initial, well, wait a second, why are we doing that? Resistance. It's not like, yes, you said so, so here we go. I have questions about that. I'm not sure about that, right? All those are things that keep us from moving forward are considered resistance. I'm seeing a lot of thumbs go up. Yeah, we can all relate to that. I keep wanting to change the slide. Amanda, please. All right, so just to get in your head, integration, and it might be different depending on what models you use, but if we just look at project management and we were to say put it into 4 stages and change management into 4 stages and just sort of get in our head, what does integration mean? It's where do we do these two things at the same time, right? So where do we integrate what we're doing in the project steps with what we need to be doing in the change management steps? It's an easy to understand illustration. Many can probably already integrate CM into change. Does anyone share what they're currently doing to integrate change into their project management process? I'm assuming since some of you were familiar with ProSci that you probably use ProSci's change management process. I don't know. Type or speak up. Retrospectives, what's that?
I was just going to say, I typed that in. I put there just like that internal, like after something is done, you're kind of looking through and kind of that continuous improvement. What could you do better next time?
Okay, someone threw up
Practices.
a communication one there. Did you catch that one, Rich?
Yeah, internal organizational change management resource for communications. So,
Okay.
and I have a similar one. I have a client that actually has obtained or acquired change management specialists to be able to take the organization through the ADKAR process. So they dedicated special resources to facilitate and lead the project from an OCM perspective.
Yeah, right on. And that's what we were doing. That's where we got into the pro side stuff, was really looking. We actually created roles, change practitioner roles that we put on every project team. And so your job was to make sure that the people side of it was being attended to, as well as the project side. Even if you didn't know anything about the project side, you know, you didn't have to know. I didn't have to know the engineering details to say, okay, you know, what's going to be the change for the people? What's going to be, how do we see how ready they are for change and things like that? Go ahead to the next slide, if you would. So if we look at, you know, we prepare, if you look at the phase one, prepare approach and change management, we look at the, again, there's all different models for project management, right? But this is just a real basic: initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, controlling, closure. And we try to look at how do we overlap with those. If we look at the prepare approach, for instance, the phase aligns really with the project initiation phase, where project managers define project scope, goals, and objectives. Change management at that time is really helping assess things like readiness for change. We often don't think about that. How ready is the organization, or how ready is that part of the organization for change? You know, if we start thinking about it and say, you know what, they had a huge change in management, they've had a huge change in personnel. What is their change saturation point, right? Is this project going to suffer because they've got so much change going on in that area right now that we're trying to shove another change in there? And how is that going to affect it, right? So when you start looking at readiness for change, it's not just do we need it, but how well is it going? Are the people that are going to have to adopt it be ready for it? CM helps in assessing readiness for change, aligning leadership, and understanding the impact of the change on individuals. So during the initiation planning stage, we're also thinking about those things, right? The people change pieces of it from the very beginning, and starting to create a change management plan. If we look at phase two, the managed change piece, that phase corresponds to the project execution phase primarily. Project managers focus on delivering on technical deliverables, while change management focuses on supporting the employees and providing training, communication plans. You know, do you have a written communication plan that says, here's what we're going to communicate? The other thing we don't think about with communication plan is who should be communicating this? Well, a lot of research shows that certain things are really good for high exec, like big picture things. Your top exec can say that. But when it comes down to the practical pieces, a lot of times they want to hear that from their direct supervisor or their boss. So how do we take information and come up with a plan of how we're going to cascade that down most effectively? You know, is a memo going to be it? We're just going to put it out there? No, we're going to look at where the biggest impact's going to be, and who should be communicating on what. So that could be part of our plan as well. Project managers focus on the delivering on technical deliverables, while change managers focus on supporting employees in training, communication, and looking at resistance. Starting to understand where they're at. You can look at it as resistance or the ADKAR. Another way of saying is, where are they at on the ADKAR, and where do we need to be putting energies in terms of making sure that we're not getting too far ahead of where the end users are. And then phase three, sustain outcomes. The phase really aligns with project closure phase. And project managers are focused on ensuring the project's completed, while the change management is really looking at ensuring that the change becomes a part of the organization's culture, right? So, in two, Batman and Robin work in tandem and are great, right? So, in this case, change management and project management well aligned, well integrated with each other, is really what can make a difference. Go ahead, Amanda, please.
Doug offered up a couple of other tips
Yeah,
here.
go ahead.
Conducting stakeholder assessments and creating training plans.
Right on.
Other
Perfect.
examples, right?
Somebody does the pro side, has been involved with pro side, I can tell. Yeah. So really assessing where they're at. I mean, and looking at, that's so critical. When we got that senior leader sponsorship for projects, and actually and they were trained on what that means. It doesn't just mean, hey, I show up in your office and say, hey, this project's going on. You know, I mean, they were trained at what their role was. So part of the training was from the very beginning, helping train the executive leadership on what they needed to be doing to support the project from the very beginning. Talking about resources, talking about roadblocks, talking about all the stuff that like communication, things that might get in their way. So ProSci they do surveys all the time. But what they found, and it's pretty incredible, that they said 50% of people in the survey that were project managers said that they found that integrating change management was extremely effective, 40% somewhat effective, and only 10% were neutral. And who knows what that means, right? I didn't feel like answering. I don't know what neutral means. 90% though, I mean, how many, I mean, you can raise your virtual hand, and how many of you would love to have 90%, be able to walk in and say, I could probably almost guarantee that I'm going to up our project success to 70 to 90%, 80 to 90% worth of. How many would, if you think about, I see them claps, love, hearts, thumbs, yay, rah, yeah. Well, that's what they're finding when they do a really good job, really integrating these two processes together. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty impressive. That, you know, could that be, you know, even a part of that would be great. Somebody just, the lonely thumb just went up. Somebody there. All right, go ahead. Next. So key areas of integration. How much time do I have, Rich? We were going to have signs in the back of the room.
Yeah. We're getting to the end.
Okay, we're getting close. All right. So if we look at key areas of integration, you know, active leadership support we've talked about is crucial for change to be successful. Engage leaders to sponsor the change and actively communicate their support. Yeah, wouldn't we love that if our leaders, like at their meetings, brought up our products, our projects, and where they were at, and we knew that was happening. We're getting feedback. Establish a clear, consistent communication plan to employees informed about the change and its benefits. Somebody put that they do that, right? So we're talking about actual communication plan and when things could go out and when things should go out and who should communicate them, right? Who's going to have the most effect in terms of who should be the speaker of that, and what should the words be? How do we script so that people are saying the same thing around the project, so we're not confusing people as well? Provide employees with the necessary skills and knowledge, and, you know, with the communication, but the training is making sure that they have the skills and the knowledge that they need to be able to adopt to the change effectively. Offer ongoing support and resources to help employees adjust to the change and address any challenges. So really utilization is something you want to measure too. Not just did we get through and people went through the training, but are they using it, right? We can get people to do things short term, but ultimately we also want to be able to measure utilization. And so how widely is it being utilized, and how proficiently is it being utilized? The last thing is really proactively, when we look at resistance management, proactively identify and address the potential resistances to change by communicating. One is communicating the reasons for the change and providing opportunities for employees to voice their concerns, but also using the ADKAR stuff to be able to tell where people are at versus just guessing. That'll give you some really good specifics on where to develop programs around the project to clear the way, so that when you get to the end, people are trained, they understand it. Your resistance, you dealt with most of the resistance by the time it's go live time, and then it's about sustainment and reinforcement. Go ahead, Amanda. So if we look at seven sort of change management, project integration best practices. Active leadership support is critical. This is pretty much our review to success. Executive sponsorship, which includes staying engaged with the project throughout its life and clearing any roadblocks. Applying a structured CM, change management process from the very beginning, which some of you say you already are and have probably felt the some of the improvements and the outcomes. Create a communication plan that is integrated throughout the project. You know, what's the first things we started about starting? What do we do in the middle? What are we communicating when we're getting to the rollout stage? Things like that. Engage leadership and integrate leader expectations for the life cycle. Make sure that they understand the life cycle of the project and that they're engaged throughout. Find change management experts and bring them on the project team. Someone said they do that. They have OCM change management practitioners who are part of their organization, that's their role. They've recognized the importance of this and actually have people in that role. That's what we were doing at IU Health as well. Dedicate change management resources and engage with and support people managers, the ones who are ultimately going to have to carry it out. You want them understanding why, so when people come to them with complaints or concerns, they're able to answer it and not just say, I don't know, I'm as lost as you are, or because Rich told us we had to do it, that's why we're doing it, right? We want to make sure that they're engaged all throughout, so that we get there we get to that 70 to 90% outcomes perspective. And then last two slides here. This just shows ADKAR laid over a typical sequential project process. We've got initiation plan, design. In this case, we start working on the awareness around the design piece, because the initiation and planning is where we're going to learn what it is exactly and get our vision. And we engage in the awareness and desire during the design and develop stage. During develop, you're doing the knowledge piece during the develop. During the deploy there and the go live, you're working on ability and reinforcement, right? By the time you deploy, people already understand why. They've already worked on the desire and have the knowledge. And then the last one here, go ahead, is just the same thing over an iterative approach, a sprint approach. Basically, write up the plan. You start the awareness and the desire from the very beginning, right when you're planning. The biggest differences here is you go through an iteration, you get knowledge and ability that come out of that. Go through another iteration, you get the improvements from that. Another one, get the improvements from that, and then you solidify the knowledge, ability, and reinforcement during the go live and outcome stage. So it just sort of shows you how you can overlap that the ADKAR model over things here. But in this hour that we had, hour and 15 minutes, there's a lot that goes into ProSci. I mean, it took us, I think, a month to get certified of doing these things every day. So there's a lot of tools, a lot of things you can use. There's a lot of stuff out there that will help with that. Last slide, please. So, so anyway, there's a lot of things that you can do out there. I'm going to be open for some questions here. Anybody have anything that I know we're getting to the end, Rich said, so any final questions?
Let's go for questions. Questions in the chat or in Slido. Amanda, if you can bring the other deck back up and go to the Q&A slide with the QR code there as well. And Brett, while we're just checking for any last minute questions that came here, we did have a comment. And frankly, you just gave an hour and 15 of change management, and I didn't hear with them a single time. So
You did what?
With them, WIIFM. What's in it for me?
I got it.
Well, how do you see how with them fits into the overall storyline?
What's in it for them in terms of this presentation, or in terms of
The change.
You're talking about a recipient of the change. What's in it when they're asking what's in it for them?
Yeah, the importance of for a person.
What's the question? Go ahead.
Okay, so I have the problem with desire.
Yeah, right. We already discussed that.
So I'm sitting back and I'm going, what's in it for me?
You want my answer is?
How do you overcome that?
Well, first of all, let's make sure that you understand what the change is.
I have knowledge. I don't have desire.
Well, okay. How do you have knowledge if you haven't desired? You went through the training and learned, but you really didn't want to. You were forced to do it. So you're still stuck in desire. Desire, what's in it for me is the great. That's an excellent question, Rick. And that's something you're not going to necessarily answer for others. There's more power in them discovering it. So what I would suggest is that you go into more of a coaching mode and use open-ended questions to help them understand, find out, do they really understand what it is for and why the change is there? So, it can be as much as what's in it for me as a job. We don't want to go there first, but what's in it for me, I may not understand. That's a great question. You know, why would I want to do this? You're asking a desire question. And
Yeah.
so I can't tell you why you desire it. But let's work through that together. Let's talk about that. What's holding you back? What are your concerns? Right? What would, you know, in a perfect world, what would happen that would allow you to be able to embrace this? So, right, you're not going to answer that for somebody else. Desire is the king of the heart. That's not,
It's
but you
core.
can help me process through my lack of desire. I don't know if
Yeah.
that helps or not, but
And Brett, just to let you know, I was just playing a role. I actually have a lot of desire.
you have cousins who have friends who have those issues. That's
I have a friend though. Yeah, that's exactly right.
anybody else?
Checking in here. Do you think there's value in getting some key project resources, ProSci, certified, change practitioner? This is specific to a large program implementations.
How big organization? Whoever wrote that.
Or come right on, turn your microphone on and let's have a conversation. 800 plus.
Yes. The answer is yes.
Yes. Okay.
If you told me 10 people, I'd say no. It would cost you way more money than it would be. I would get the resource. You can get a lot of these resources. So ProSci has been around for a long time. You can get a lot of these resources and learn a lot about it. Now, what you're going to get with ProSci that we got is all kinds of forms and communication templates and, you know, sponsor sheets and all the supportive materials that go with the change management piece. So if you have a lot of people, I would say whether it's ProSci or I think they're one of the top ones out there. I don't, you know, somebody else may know of another one, but I would say yes, definitely having partner with you that's working on the change part of that is hugely. There you are, Rasesh. I see you. Hi.
Hi.
So yeah, I would say yes, sir. Now they're not cheap, but neither is failed project. That's what we found is that we're spending so much money on taking people out, putting them in all these rapid improvement events and things, and we weren't getting the results that we wanted. It was because the people change pieces. Why not? And when we did that, it really turned a lot of those things around.
Is there any other certification you would recommend besides change practitioner?
That's where you'd start. You know, if you contact ProSci or look them up online, PROSCI Inc. They'll share all the different programs that they have. You know, obviously they would love to come in and get an organization-wide contract. I'm sure. I'm not a part of them, so I don't. The only reason I even promote is because the ADKAR thing I've been using before I even knew if ProSci did it, because I just think it's a really great, simple model for understanding human change. You know, if we're not aware of it, we're not going to desire it. If we're not going to desire it, we're not going to want to learn it. If we're not going to learn it, we're not going to have the ability. If we're not going to have the ability, then there's really nothing to reinforce, right? Because we're going to be doing what we've always done.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Thanks for the question and the
Yeah,
follow-up.
thank you.
Hey, Brett, I'm checking around here.
Let me just close up there. That's it.
And Brett, I want to thank you very much for sharing your expertise in change management. We have something that I could have handed you in person, but you're going to get it here virtually. Amanda, if you can go ahead and please.
Is it a hug or what is it? Amanda, give me a hug, a virtual hug. Well, all I'd say is,
And Amanda, go to the next slide.
thank you for sticking in with this session. It's hard to make it really interactive when you can't see people and all that. So do the best we could. I hope it was helpful for you. Again, my name is Brett Hodge. My company is Organizational Effectiveness Consulting, Inc. Provide people development, consulting, training, team development, leadership support for the past 30 years. And again, thanks for your time this evening. Thank you, Amanda, for reaching out and giving me this opportunity to speak with you all. And I hope it was helpful for you.
And Brett,
Contact
here's
me if there's anything else I can do.
official certificate of appreciation from the chapter, signed by our president and CEO, Kelly.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so we will ship this off and get this to you.
I
Probably
was gonna say, how do I get out of it?
probably in
Do I
an
take a
email
picture of it?
near you with a nice printer button or something like that.
Well, thank you
Next
very
slide.
much.
And Brett, hang around for a little bit because I'm going to ask the audience to pay you. Guys, this is how to pay Brett outside of the copious amounts of money that we're providing for this. If you can go ahead and if there's a single takeaway that you had from this presentation, what would it be? Please write that in the chat. Okay, what's a takeaway message that you took away from this that Brett landed that message with you? So we're into presentation takeaways, and please add that so Brett can say it in our chat.
Effective change requires a plan, definitely.
Okay, and Amanda, let's go 2 more slides as people are contributing those contributions.
Stages of change. Thank you. Yeah, great.
That landed with them.
Sounds like
And
gratifying.
let's go 1 more.
Integration. Okay, great.
Okay.
Great reminders are good. Carol, thank you, Carol.
If you're not chatting those things up, this is another one for your phone. Go ahead and take our program survey. We'd like you to do this right now, as a matter of fact. And Amanda, why don't you hit the music button on this one too? And here we go. You look thoughtful, Brett, and confused.
I was like, wait, that's Jeopardy. I was like, this is familiar.
All righty, and thank you much. ADKAR reminders, PM and integration. You can see that, Brett. You landed some good messaging here. Thank you yet again. We do have one more thing for the chapter members. Let's see. It looks like, let's go 2 slides, Amanda. And Adrian covered that last one we just did. But guys, there's another hold the date activity coming up August 6th. It's Pro Dev Day, PDD 2025. Hybrid options are available, but hold the day, August the 6th. I wanted to make certain. And this is breaking news. I didn't quite realize the importance of this. I just followed the slide. So maybe we'll see you back there, Brett. Guys, thank you very much. And now for your moment of PDU code ZEN C002KB08F7. On behalf of the PMI volunteers who brought you tonight's program, good night, everyone, and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Richie, I can see you're good at that. Were you in broadcasting ever?
Toastmasters and a Cub